Hi, welcome back to the Gando Tech Learning channel. Today we are going to share with you a new exciting video in terms of the Kubernetes. So far we had a few videos in terms of the how Dockerizing the applications, and today we are a step further and going through the Kubernetes to see what's Kubernetes and Kubernetes versus Docker, Kubernetes definition and components, Kubernetes command line tool, which is kubectl, and then we would have a proper walkthrough to how to enable the Kubernetes on Docker in your machine, and then downloading the kubectl, adding the kubectl part to the environment variable to be able to use it everywhere, and then installing the Kubernetes extension into the Visual Studio Code, and then how to create a docker-compose YAML file, and then running our console application into the Kubernetes, which is the main goal of this video. So bear with us to see how basically this video discussing about the Kubernetes. So, what is Kubernetes? So, as you know, before stepping further to the Kubernetes, we were talking about the Dockers, and just to mention to you, you can easily, if you go to if you visit the channel, the Gando Tech Learning channel on YouTube, you would be able to see the previous courses in terms of the Docker. So we have 4 parts in terms of the how to Dockerizing the application. And if you want to have more background about these Kubernetes, I think I recommend to go and watch those videos to get more background, because we are just following up all those previous things and completing the course as we go. So in Docker world, actually, we have many containers and they are working, and we have lots of images are running through these containers. But the question is how once we have too many containers, once we want to scale up the business, how we are going to managing these Docker containers, which in this situation, the Kubernetes is coming to the discussion and doing this job for us. So the Kubernetes is an open source container orchestration system, and it's automating the computer applications by in deployment, in scaling, and managing the containerized workload and services and operation of containers across cluster. So these Kubernetes originally designed by the Google and now maintained by the Cloud Native Computing Foundation. So what's the main difference between the Kubernetes and Docker? So the main difference between them is Kubernetes is meant to run across a cluster while Docker running on a single node. And the Kubernetes is more extensive than the Docker Swarm and is meant to coordinate clusters of nodes at scale in production in an efficient manner, which I had a sort of brief for you earlier with these things. So we are going through basically some definitions and components on Kubernetes. So to give you a little of background, what's inside this basically architecture. So some of the definition which is basically you need to know about them. One is cluster, which is the result of deploying the Kubernetes, and a cluster consists of set of worker machines, which is called nodes. So these are the steps which you are going forward and see basically once we are uh, breaking these shells to see what's inside, and in these are step by step going through that basically stage. And each cluster has got at least one node. So you have got a cluster in your Kubernetes world, and this cluster must have at least one node, but it could be as many as you want. And node hosting the pods. So each node has got several pods, and these are the components of the application workload. So pods actually are the smallest deployable units which represent a set of running containers on your cluster. And also the workload. The workload is an application running on Kubernetes. So these are sort of basically definitions which you really need to know about the Kubernetes once you are coming to that. And the major components inside these architectures is a control plane component, which is doing the is basically acting as a decision makers about the cluster, like scheduling, detecting, and responding to the cluster events. And as part of this component, some of the small components are there, which are basically in charge of these decision makings, which like API server or a scheduler and the rest, which we will come to them as we go. And the other major one is node components. They are maintaining the running pods and providing the Kubernetes runtime environment. And as part of them, so we have kubelet, kubeproxy, container runtime, and these are the components which are basically managing all these or maintaining all these running pods for us. So, Kubernetes command line tool, which is the kubectl, and is playing basically a very important role in this world, and it's letting you to control the clusters. So that's the syntax of this command, which you are putting the kubectl at the beginning, and then put your command type and then name and flags, which to get all, so we are not going to get all the commands and parameters which you see here. So we just use them as we need. But if you want to have a better exposure about these commands, you need to dig more into it and find out basically more about them. So now we are turning into the most exciting part of this video, which is the Kubernetes walkthrough, and give you a better flavor and a real flavor of how to basically um, preparing your machine at the beginning to make you ready to touch the Kubernetes. So bear with us and to basically to see how this world is happening. So, the first thing, according to the agenda, which we discussed at the beginning, is to go and enable the Kubernetes on Docker. So Docker by default is running on in our case, which is Windows operating system, by default is running through the Windows containers. But to achieve and be able to use the Kubernetes, you must switch your Windows container to the Linux container. To achieve this goal, you just need to come to the sub menu on your Docker actually icon in the tray, and then click on switch to Linux container, and just let it go uh, to basically start running uh, and configuring your Docker on Kubernetes. So as you can see, it switched to the switch to Windows container, which is saying is already configured on Linux container. And as you can see, another sub menu has been added, which is Kubernetes. So if you go to dashboard, it just to make sure, okay, now you have got Kubernetes on your enabled on your machine. So to achieve that, as you can see, as part of the setting on your dashboard, you will see you would have the Kubernetes as a sub menu here. And now what you need to do to just enable the Kubernetes on your machine. As at the moment, as you can see, only Docker is running here. So you need to enable the Kubernetes on your Docker to basically to see another line here, which is Kubernetes is running. And then apply and restart your Docker. So yes, as you can see, it's starting to enable the Kubernetes on your machine is taking a while to make it ready for you to be able to use the Kubernetes on your machine. So bear with me until this is finished and make everything ready for you. It's starting now. So normally, as you know, restarting the Docker and Kubernetes is taking a while to be up and running. So every time you would be able to either reset only the Kubernetes cluster or restarting or resetting whole Docker and then Kubernetes together. So it's up to you, and based on the situation on your machine, you could do either one, either go through the Docker restarting or only Kubernetes restarting. So yeah, so we have to stay until this Kubernetes is happening. So before, actually while it's happening at the moment, I'm going to the basically next stage, which is installing the kubectl, which is giving us those command lines to be able to uh, manage our Kubernetes stuff with this. So to achieve that, you just need to come to the kubernetes.io website and just go to the Google and just search for kubectl install or something like this. So it will take you to this basically Kubernetes website, and then uh, in here there are basically different things on, for example, installing the kubectl on Linux and Mac OS, and also we are interested on the Windows one, which is quite easy because you just need to download a link. So as you can see, the link is just a kubectl exe file, which is very simple. You just need to download it and then put it somewhere, as I did at the moment. As you can see, I put basically that I created a kubectl folder and then put the exe file here after I downloaded that one. So it's fairly easy to just basically having this kubectl on your machine. And then the next step is adding kubectl exe file to your environment variable to the generic pod to be able to use the kubectl everywhere. You don't need then to go to this pod and then put basically use your kubectl command. To achieve that, so you definitely must be know you have got the environment variables here. Just go to the system environment variable and just go to the pod and double click in here and just add your pod as part of this environment variable, and that's it. Simple as that. To make sure it's working, you just need to create a command prompt and just type kubectl, and you should be able to, as soon as you see kubectl is running and see you all the parameters commands, which means the kubectl is working on your pod everywhere, and it's ready to be used. So that's another thing which is basically very important to achieve. So bear with us to go to the next stage in our video. Right. So as you can see now, Docker is running, Kubernetes is also running. So we have everything in place, everything ready. Kubernetes is available on our machine. So just to give you two tips, sometimes once you enable the Kubernetes, it just stuck on starting uh, progress, and it doesn't go anywhere. It just for indefinitely start continuing try to in running the Kubernetes and starting the Kubernetes to be stated as a running, but it never be happen. So one trick is to restart your Docker fully and then see if basically that helps. Or the other thing is, which definitely it will work, is if you go to your basically users folder and look for this .kube folder and find the config file and just remove it. So definitely it will basically it will be started. It will be running for your Kubernetes. So now Nice. So we have got Kubernetes on our machine as a running state. So the next thing which we require now to do is having the Kubernetes extension on our Visual Studio Code. So, according to my previous videos, I recommended to use the Visual Studio Code to make everything much more easier rather than going through the command prompts or bash or something like this. So you would have your code in there. You could have the C# extensions is in there to be able to build your project, manipulating your projects, and also having more extension in there to just do everything in one place. So I have basically suggested you in my previous video where to go get this Visual Studio Code and actually what is the extensions in Visual Studio Code. So now, as you can see, my previous project is already opened here. I explained all these things in my previous video. You just need to go and watch that one. So it give you complete background about what basically happened earlier. So I've got my basically project opening here. I've got my Docker extension, which is already installed. And actually, I've got my Docker Hub connected to my repository. And as you can see, my image is already there. So all these things, don't basically afraid of these things. Don't be basically concerned. Everything has been explained in my previous video, so you can just uh, go there and watch it. That's it. So everything is there. As soon as you watch it, you will basically find out where I'm coming from actually. So now we need another extension which is going to Kubernetes extension. So you can just easily search it in extension and just installing that. So it's going to install the Kubernetes extension on your Visual Studio Code. Then you would be able to manage everything here easily. So also in my previous video, basically I mentioned how to create a bash terminal here, how to create a terminal. You just need to go new, and then you would have your terminal here to put your commands, everything as required. So bear with me until this Kubernetes extension is installed, and then we will continue to see basically what's next. Awesome. So the Kubernetes extension now is installed, and as you can see, the icon has been added here. So you have got the clusters, you have got the Helm repositories and cloud if you are basically using that. So everything is now ready for us to just go ahead and run basically run the next step, which is creating a Docker Compose, and then see how it's going to um, actually run our project on pods. So bear with me to go and see how basically we are creating the Docker Compose file. Right. So before starting a new world of Kubernetes, let's talk about the Docker Compose, which is again building the image for you and running the Docker file for you, and building the image, and then you can run it in your container. So I've created a very basic Docker image file which I'm going through this, and it's basically just mentioning the version of uh, your version of your Docker Compose, and then the services which you are using is in your application. It could be anything which is basically based on your project. And then under the build, you are mentioning, okay, I'm going through the build all the files, and also I'm using these Docker files, which is your name. and then you want to basically run your image with basically against the container, which the container is, the name is this one, which could be, it could be anything as you wish. And then the last piece is going to be an image, which is the image which you have. You want to pull it and use it for yourself. So all these things like imaging and Docker file has been talked already in my previous video, so you just need to go and watch it. So it will give you the whole background about the Dockerizing and Docker file. So it just basically require to watch that video. So don't worry about that, and just go and have a look there. So, to just give you basically make your heads up about basically what's the Docker Hub. So this is the Docker Hub. This is the Gando Tech account, and this is the repository which has got only one tag, one image with one tag, which we already done it in basically our previous video. So everything is there. You just need to watch that video. And also, in terms of the versioning, as we talked about in the Docker Compose. So as you can see, based on the Docker engine which you are using, you can easily find out what version it should be basically supported and just use it there. So if I go and like type here Docker version and have a look to my engine. So my Docker engine version is this one, which is 19.03.13. And once you have a look in this list, so this is basically my Docker engine is falling in this category, which is supporting 3.8. So you just easily use this version. And as I said, this container name and also this service name is exactly as you wish based on your project. And the Docker file name, we just put the Docker file name here, and this is the image basically part, and also the tag or version of those image which you are interested to run it on your local. So now next step I'm interested to do is to just building my Docker Compose. So just bear in your mind, you might go and watch my previous video. So in this Docker file, we have basically in the old one we had different parts, but because now we are using the Docker Compose file, so I had to change the path for this. This is the only thing which has been changed. Once you compare these two videos, you will see what has been changed. It was just more basically folder name like this for all these copying the stuff, and also building the release or building the test, and also publishing the application, which I just removed them because in Docker Compose now we just basically mention uh, the sorry, we just mentioned the Docker Compose to pointing to that specific path. So uh, to use to building your Docker Compose file, you just need to use the Docker Compose keyword, and then put your Docker Compose file based on the path which you have. So as you can see, I've got the Gando Tech console application folder. Inside that, I've got another folder with the same name, and inside this we have got two folders, for one for main project, which has got the CS project file, and then my test project, and then my Docker Compose and Docker file are in the same path as this parent. So I just put the appropriate path for this Docker file and just using the build keyword, and we are going to run this. So what it does is uh, this file, which is the docker compose file, is going to that docker file and run whatever you already basically put here in your docker file. I already and completely explained line by line of this docker file in my previous video, so you just need to watch that to basically heads up about what's going on in this docker file. But to just give you a brief, so to build our basically project, we require the SDK folder, and to run we need the runtime one, which is this one. So we just get these two images from the Docker Hub to be able to build and publish and then run our application under the .NET Core. So our basically console application is using the .NET Core 3.1. So that's why we are fetching these images from there. And the rest are copying the required file to the basically to the relevant folders, and then build the projects, running the test against your project. If there is any test is failed, this dockerization will be failed, and all these require things which is happening. And this docker compose is the case of running that docker file for us. So I'm just going to run these for docker compose. And as you can see, is to start building my service and going one step by step through this. As you can see, some of them are already exist because we have run this Docker file several times. So that's why some of those steps are already created, and the rest are going to be downloaded. As you see, it's taking a while to basically to have everything pulled and built. So yeah, after running, basically after building the Docker Compose file, we are going to run it and see the application, actual application, how it's basically running in the container. So uh, actually, until it's finished, I'm just going to give you some hint about what's going on in this program. So in this program, as you can see, it's completely simple console application. What it does is going through the loop for a while, and then try to making delay and just displaying some messages for you for a period of the time, and then it will be automatically finished. That's it. So that's the whole thing which is happening in this application. And um, basically we are providing the intervals, the stop interval, and also the interval per each iteration, um, to basically give the application, okay, you need to run this application for this amount of time, and each delay is going to be that much. Right, so wow, so as you can see, everything is now building in the Docker file, and you see all these numbers here are the steps of whatever is happening in the Docker file. So each of these would be displayed as a line. So for example, run.NET Restore is going to be this one, and it's going to be a step, for example, 7 of 17 of all these basically lines which is happening. So the step will be displayed as you see in the Docker file. Nice one. So at the end, um, we would have all the required images in our basically uh, Docker world. So bingo. Now we have everything is in place. So if I put Docker images, it will show me all the images which is at the moment basically pulled from the Docker Hub, and this is the most important one, which is really interested for us. And this is our image, and this is the tag which we already pulled it via the Docker file. So now the next step is to running our application via the Docker Compose. So to run the application, in order to run the application, so you just need to use the same command. Instead of build, just use up. And as soon as you do it, you see it's going to create and communicate, and then wow, bingo, that application is running now. And as you can see, as part of the container, now our container is up and running. And if I put, for example, view log, I can see all these logs is happening, which is amazing. And also, if I go to Docker and the dashboard, also the other way you would be able to see what's going on in the Docker in the container. So this is the list of the container, and this is my container. As you can see, is already running, and this is the log file for that one. So also in the images list, as you see, I'm just connected to my Docker Hub repository, and in here, this is my container, which is up and running. Nice one. So also, the other thing which I wanted to show you is going to be my repository, which is connected to the Docker Hub. So in order to connect to my basically remote repository in the Docker Hub, you have to connect to it, which I already explained all these things. No worry about that. Some of these things are like a blind spot for you, but as soon as you watch my previous video, everything will be clear for you. So just watch that video. That's it. Nothing else. So as you can see, the application now is finished, and also the container is stopped. So which means it's done. Right. So this is another way of running the application via the Docker Compose. So now the next step and the final step is to run our application as a standalone deployment uh, on our Kubernetes with different basically customization, different replicas which is required to be installed there. So bear with us to start the next exciting step. Right, so let's back to the exciting part, which is Kubernetes Vault. So now what we're gonna do is to creating a deployment YAML file and put our required stuff to be able to uh, run a deployment for our console application and um, run that basically application in Kubernetes. So in order to do that, we required a deployment.yaml file. So as you can see, I just created one normal file, which is deployment.yaml file. And then just if you use the key combination of the keys control space, like what you do in the Visual Studio, so you can see there are some types, some kinds of Kubernetes file you would be able to see here, which we are interested on, this one as a deployment. So as soon as you click on this, it will give you a template, as you can see here, and you just need to put your stuff. So in order to make this much more quicker, I've provided my Kubernetes file here, my deployment here, and as you can see, the kind is deployment, and we need to specify a name for our basically deployment, which is the Gando Tech console application. As part of the spec, we require to add one selector, which the match label is going to be this name. So all those basically um, deployment which is going to be basically happen in the Kubernetes will use this basically Gando Tech console application. So as part of this deployment, the replicas is saying, okay, whenever you do the deployment, I need 3 instances of my console application to be up and running. So you will specify the number of replicas which you are interested to do. And then the strategy in terms of the ruling update is saying, okay, always I need to have at least one basically pod up and running, because I don't wanna basically in production it's really bad if you have basically the uh, outage time, so your application always should be up and running. So once the client, as soon as hit your application, either is a website or Windows application, whatever, always it should get basically running. So this basically piece of code is saying, okay, always at least one pod must be up and running, so there is no outage time, and uh, basically and at least one of them apart from one of them is always up and running. So if you want to, for example, rule them out, it should be one at a time ruling out. So the other part which is talking about the pods, which is saying always use this pattern as a Gando take console application and use this label. And so once you have, for example, 3 pods up and running, they are using the same pattern as this one, and they would be they would be basically separated based on a postfix, which is a random value, which is added to this basically pattern. And the last piece of the puzzle is our container. So this is the name of our container, which is basically saying, okay, this container is up and running. And then this is the image, which is exactly the same as what we have basically discussed earlier. And in terms of the image policy, pool policy, so if you put it always, it says, okay, always pull this image once you want to run the deployment. So to make sure we always have this basically image in place. And the last piece of the puzzle for now, as a basic deployment, which is happening here, is the resources. So in the resources, we have 2 sections, which is requests and limits. So this one is in terms of the CPU and memory, which you really need to use for your basically application. Which requests is saying, okay, I want to specify 64 megabyte memory and also 50 uh, 50 mils of the basically cores of the CPU. And in terms of the limits, so as you know, your application as is running, it's consuming the memory and CPU, and it could increase this basically amount. So in some basically way, you want to stop this because it's killing the system. So you want to stop this and restarting your pod to make it refresh. So then the limits is coming to the consideration with having the limitation of the memory and CPU, and say, okay, start with 64, and once it's reached to this 128, restart the pod. The same for CPU as well. So this is basically one thing in terms of the resources. There are a lot of things, other things basically included in this YAML file, which basically they are basically as you required in terms of your applications, your projects. So you want to need to add them or update them. So this is the fairly basic, basically deployment file. So now we have the deployment file in place, which is being added here. So what I'm gonna do now, we are going to so one thing I just wanted to mention. So as you can see in the Kubernetes side, we would have a namespaces, which is the which is basically you specify, okay, my deployments based on the projects, based on your business, basically priorities or categorization, you would have different namespaces. So by default, we have a default namespace, which always basically has been selected and is being used by basically the Kubernetes. But it's better to have different category of namespaces to have your application separated. So in order to do that, you can easily use kubectl create namespace and put your namespace like Gando tech namespace and just enter. Oh, what's up? Sorry. Create namespace. Yes. So as you can see, my namespace has been created now. And if I do refresh, I would be able to see it here. So if you just right click and select use namespace, that namespace will be selected and everything in terms of the deployment will be happened in there. So the second stage, what you need to do is to basically connect your deployment file to that namespace. So by using this command, you can easily apply your deployment file in this namespace. And as you can see, this basically deployment has been created. So now, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna just run my deployment. In order to do that, you just need to use the kubectl get deploy. And as soon as you hit this button, your basically application will be deployed on your basically Kubernetes. So, and as you can see, so it says the Gando Tech console application has been deployed with 3 instances, and uh, if you use now kubectl get pods, you see at the moment they are, for some reason, they are crashing. So and it's trying to restart itself. So if you keep asking, okay, if you keep asking to check the pods, let me show you something here as well. Right, so as you can see, we have got our nodes and deployments and also the pods. But there is a problem with the pods. And as you can see, if I describe them, uh, there is a problem with pulling basically the image from the repository, which is access denied. So in order to fix this issue, if we go to the repository in our Docker Hub, there is an option in the settings which is visibility setting, and your repository has got that option to be either private or public. So in the Docker stage, you don't have any basically issue if your repository is private. But once you come to the Kubernetes side, then your repository must be public. So if I make my repository public in Docker Hub and then go back here, try to remove my Docker stuff, and by removing my um, deployment and then applying my Docker file to um, namespace and then kubectl get deploy. Bingo! As you can see, now all pods are up and running. Wow, exciting. So as you can see, I've got 3 pods as per the replicas which we discussed here, and also um, all of them are using the same pattern plus sort of unique random variables. The status is running and they are all ready. So if I refresh, yes, as you can see, all of them are up and running. So if I go there, click on show logs here. So as you see, they are successfully uh, being run in the log file. If I go to my Docker and go to the dashboard, so yes, we have got 3 pods which is up and running, and if you click in either one, all of them are running. So now, yeah, this is the actually Kubernetes side of um, your application, which we basically write a simple deployment file to be able to achieve this goal. So as you can see, we are using uh, basic information in our deployment file to achieve this goal. And so in terms of the image policy, image pool policy, if it's always, uh, every time you run the deployment, it will go and pull this branch, pull this image with this tag for you. And in the near future, well, we have got too many other things like integrating basically the Kubernetes and TeamCity and GitHub. So this version will be coming via the TeamCity, and that's why if we put the basically image pool policy to always we will pick the most recent version from the TeamCity, or even if we want to run in a certain version, we're gonna put that version via the TeamCity and use it here as a parameter. And that's why we require to have the always as the image pool policy to always pull that basically tag from for us, because we have got other thing here like if not present, which means for example it will look into that version in your in your cluster. If that image is not there, then it will pull it from the Docker Hub or wherever your Docker registry is. And in terms of the never, it won't basically pull these images from your Docker registry, never. And the only thing you can do to basically make this deployment successfully, you have to manually pull the images on your basically uh, in your side, and then run this deployment to be able to make the deployment succeed. So just be careful about this one. So yeah, this was basically sort of um, overview in terms of the Kubernetes, and hope you enjoyed this video, and please subscribe to our channel to support us and also get notification about the new videos are coming. And I would recommend to watch the previous videos in terms of the Docker, which is available in our Docker playlist in the channel, in the YouTube channel, and basically then coming to this video and watch what basically already has been discussed. So thank you very much for watching this video.